Okay, we'll give it just a moment to give folks time to log in. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live online author event with Greenlight Bookstore. I'm Jessica from Greenlight, and we are thrilled to host tonight's event with Mansoor Adayfi and Antonio Aiello presenting their new book, Don't Forget Us Here, Lost and Found at Guantanamo. They'll be talking with Ron Chernow, so you are in for an excellent time. Before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks to Mansoor, Antonio, Ron, and the team at Hachette Books for making this happen, and to all of you for showing up. Though we're not able to host events in our store spaces right now, our community of authors and readers is still here. We're grateful for your support and for the chance to make space for conversation and connection. A couple little housekeeping things. In our Zoom webinar tonight, you can see and hear the speakers, but they can't see and hear you. They can see that you're here though, and there are a couple of ways that you can interact with the authors and with each other throughout tonight's event, which we highly encourage. The first is a chat, which you can find by clicking on the icon that looks like a speech balloon. You're welcome to post your comments and thoughts in the chat. It's a great way to show your appreciation for the author and interact with fellow attendees. If you have a specific question you'd like to have answered by the author, please post that question in the Q&A. You can find it by clicking on the icon that looks like two speech balloons. We'll be pulling questions only from the Q&A to be answered in the later part of the program. And importantly, tonight's featured book, Don't Forget Us Here, is available for sale from Greenlight Bookstore. You can shop in person in our bookstore locations every day of the week, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at our Fulton Street location and 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. at our Flatbush Avenue location. And you can purchase Mansoor's book and many others on site. Or order online at greenlightbookstore.com for a quick pickup at the store or for shipping anywhere in the US. I'll drop that buy link in the chat in a moment. If you care about supporting the careers of authors and thinkers and the ongoing existence of independent bookstores, buying tonight's featured book is a great way to show your support. All right, some introductions. Our interviewer tonight is Ron Chernow, the Pulitzer Prize and National Book Award winning biographer and author of 7 books and the recipient of the 2015 National Humanities Medal. A past president of PEN America, Chernow has been the recipient of 8 honorary doctorates, so we're enormously honored to have him here with us tonight. He's going to be speaking with our featured authors, Mansoor Adayfi and Antonio Aiello. Antonio is a writer, editor, and storyteller, formerly the content and web director at PEN America. He worked closely with Mansoor to help develop the manuscripts written at Guantanamo into Don't Forget Us Here. Together, they're working to develop a TV show inspired by the book as fellows in the Sundance Institute's prestigious Episodic Lab. Mansoor Adayfi is a writer, advocate, and former Guantanamo detainee, held for over 14 years without charges as an enemy combatant before being released to Serbia in 2016. He's published several pieces in the New York Times and contributed to the graphic anthology Guantanamo Voices and the scholarly volume Witnessing Torture. He participated in the creation of the award-winning radio documentary The Art of Now, Guantanamo, for BBC Radio, and the CBC podcast Love Me, which aired on Radiolab. He was also featured in the PBS Frontline episode Out of Gitmo and won the Richard J. Margulies Award for Nonfiction Writers of Social Justice Journalism in 2019. Derived from manuscripts he wrote and sent as letters to his attorneys while detained at Guantanamo, Adayfi's new book, Don't Forget Us Here, offers an unprecedented window into one of the most secretive places on earth, and also into the limitlessness and perseverance of the human spirit. So we'll start with the reading. Mansoor will tell us a little bit about the passage we're about to hear, and then Antonio will read. Then they'll both be in conversation with Ron Chernow, and they'll take your questions after that. Please join me in welcoming, to start us off, Mansoor Adayfi.
Thank you all for having me tonight. Before we start, I would like to dedicate a song to everyone and to my brothers at Guantanamo, to all the to Antonio Aiello, my friend, who I have been tortured for the last 3 years, to Ron, to my lawyers, and to Alisa, and to everyone. The song that we used to sing at Guantanamo for each other, supporting each other. And let's start. حبا حبا باللي جا باللي جا يا مرحبا باللي جا باللي جا, which means welcome by the one who comes, so welcome you all. So let us jump to my friend Antonio to read a section about Thunder Jinni. It is one of the funniest stories at Guantanamo, like reflect a sense of humor that we developed as a mean of survival. So let us buckle up and fly to Guantanamo. Antonio.
Okay, thanks, Mansoor. And whenever you sing, that always makes me, I don't know, fall apart. Anyway, so here we go with the reading. This is from not quite the middle of the book, but well into it. After the men have had a chance to establish themselves and kind of form a brotherhood. So, Guantanamo was an upside-down world where nothing made sense, and that's the way the interrogators liked it. It was a place where salt was more valuable than gold. Daylight existed only in our dreams. Iguanas had more rights than we did, and the rules changed every day. We weren't allowed to know the time, but time is all we had. Day after day in a never-ending cycle of interrogations, where the interrogators tried to outsmart our supposed advanced counter-interrogation techniques, and every second they couldn't meant the United States was under imminent threat of another catastrophic attack. It was a place where they'd rather believe lies than truth, so long as it supported what they already believed. If our lives weren't at stake, it would have been funny. But the interrogators and the camp admin took whatever we did and said very seriously, no matter how ridiculous it was. At Guantanamo, even the most absurd jokes had real consequences. That didn't keep us from joking around, though. Our jokes could be an innocent distraction or a dangerous game, depending on who was in on the joke. Either way, it was something to do, and sometimes the only thing to do when we weren't waiting around for the guards to harass us or the interrogators to kick our asses. Our jokes were the only things we could control, that the interrogators couldn't take away from us, that reminded us that we were human. The Americans were scared of us, and we could use that against them, often with unexpectedly delightful results. On one of those stormy nights during Guantanamo's rainy season, a Yemeni brother had a cold and was performing incantations known as ruqayyas over his water bottle as a way to heal himself. Some brothers did this instead of asking their interrogators for a doctor. They recited short surahs from the Holy Quran or Allah's beautiful names over their water bottles or cups, then blew into the water. Then they drank the water or passed it to another brother who was feeling sick. New guards were always really confused by this, no matter how many times we tried to explain it. They were told all kinds of things by the camp admin when they first arrived, like that we were all crazy killers and religious extremists, but they never told them about this. One of the new guards noticed his brother had noticed this brother had covered himself with a sheet and was holding a water bottle to his lips and whispering. Like all of us, this brother had really long hair and a beard. We couldn't cut them, and maybe looked a little bit scary. This guard watched him for a long time, nervous. The lightning flashed, and this brother recited his verses louder and louder. Then the thunder clapped. What's he doing, the new guard asked. What language is he speaking? He's performing an Islamic healing, Othman said. He was always trying to help the guards with his English, even when it wasn't very helpful. Hamza called the new guard to his cage. He had a wicked smile, and I knew he was going to cause some trouble. Our brother is a sorcerer, Hamza whispered. He's calling his genies for help. What are jinns? The new guard asked. She was really scared now. Jinns are demons, Hamza said. They both looked down the block at our brother, reciting the Quran to his water bottle. Demons, the guard said. You know, Hamza whispered. Shape-shifting spirits made of fire and air, like Aladdin. He's just summoning the two thunder genie who controls thunder and lightning. All the blood drained from the guard's face. Hey, brother, Hamza called in Arabic. I told her you're a sorcerer. I told her you're calling your thunder genie. With the next lightning flash, the sorcerer recited the verse even more loudly, and now rocked back and forth like he was summoning his genie. The new guard watched him closely. When the thunder clapped again, she jumped and muffled a terrified cry. Crazy lightning flashed, and the sorcerer spoke louder. Thunder hit 1, 2, 3 times in a row, each time closer and closer, louder and louder. Oh my God, she cried. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The new guard ran to the block sergeant and told him what was going on. Soon the sorcerer had a big audience of guards watching his performance, all freaking out as he spoke louder and louder. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled. It seemed to be on top of us and all around us. Tell him to stop, the sergeant said to Hamza. But the sorcerer kept talking. He kept rocking, thunder kept clapping. This guy is crazy, the guard cried. He's gonna kill us all. He was such a good performer. Even some of the brothers were worried now. Did he really have a thunder genie? The sergeant called the watch commander. And when he saw what was going on, he shouted at the sorcerer to stop, or he'd call an earth team to make him stop. This brother stopped. He had finished his incantations anyway. He took off the sheet off his head and calmly handed the watch commander his water bottle. He was a good actor, this brother. The thunder didn't stop, though. It lasted all night long. So did our laughter. The new guard got a nickname. We called her Thunder Girl. The sorcerer got over his cold, but of course he was punished. He wasn't allowed to have a water bottle for 3 months.
Thank you, Antonio. That was wonderful. As you can tell from that excerpt, folks, the world of Guantanamo is portrayed in this extraordinary book. It was a rather surreal and Kafkaesque place of many horrors, although occasionally a place of joy and unexpected laughter. Let me just start out by saying I feel extremely proud to be doing this event with Mansoor Adayfi and his collaborator, Antonio Aiello, whom I know from the staff of PEN America. For 14 years, Mansoor went through unimaginable suffering at Guantanamo, suffering, Mansoor, that I think would have broken almost any other human being. But against all odds, as you see in this book, he manages to emerge as a braver and stronger and better human being. I don't know how you do it. Let me read, if I may, the blurb that I wrote after reading the book. In this landmark work, Mansoor Adayfi gives us a guided tour through the nightmarish landscape of Guantanamo. He tells a tale of both casual cruelty and organized sadism that should make every American politician redden with shame. But this memoir offers much more than just a gruesome portrait of a bureaucracy gone berserk, for it describes the fierce resistance and ultimate redemption of an innocent Yemeni man consigned to a hellish prison. Let us hope that Don't Forget Us Here will spark a long overdue reckoning with the horrors of Guantanamo and its many victims. I was wondering, Mansoor, if we could start out, just if you could tell us a little bit about your background growing up in Yemen. And also, you know, I think that for the average American, there is an assumption that anyone who was at Guantanamo must have been doing something very bad. They don't quite know what it was, but they're sure it must be kind of a bad guy. And one thing that I didn't really know until I read your book was this whole system of the American government paying cash bounties for the heads of, like yourself, often innocent victims of the world's terror. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up at Guantanamo.
Oh, thank you, Ron, for your review.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like in Yemenis, we live in the tribal society, as you know.
Yeah.
I grew up in a tiny village in the mountain, a tribal, live within like tribe, like big family and tribe. Raised by a tribe leader, my father, very firm, like, because we used to be like the face of the family, like, you know, integrity, courage, honor, and so on. So I had like a lot of brothers and sisters. I was in the middle. So this is little of my background. How I ended up in Guantanamo, you know, like as being a village boy, when I like left to finish high school in a city, living with my aunt, I saw a new world, a new electricity, cars, trees, buildings, like, wow. So I started really discover the world, like that I knew at that age. And I was a little, they call me like smart. So I want to learn more about the world. So my journey led me to Afghanistan, which I was like a research mission, where I was ended up like kidnapped by warlord, sold to the CIA as Al-Qaeda Egyptian general, sold for bounty, then ended up at Guantanamo.
Right. And Antonio, you spent what, 2 or 3 years of your life helping Mansoor to assemble this book. Now I know Mansoor wrote hundreds of pages while still at Guantanamo, and many hundreds of pages, you know, after you left. And I know you two guys had countless Skype sessions with each other. Antonio, could you talk about taking this, you know, voluminous amount of material and helping to trim it down into what I think is a very kind of shapely and gripping narrative? and also what it was like for you to be day after day inhabiting the world of Guantanamo. Certainly nowhere near the suffering that Mansoor went through actually living there, but it must have been a difficult psychological reality to be living with that for 2-3 years of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it was so interesting diving into Mansoor's world. I mean, I had working at Penn, I had, you know, I knew about Guantanamo and, you know, worked with Larry Seams and with the ACLU on things like the torture report and reckoning with torture. And we had, you know, you were there, we had known about it. But when I met Mansoor and started talking to him, and when he sent me pages, I was blown away. I mean, there was just so much that hadn't been read or seen or heard about in his writing. And it wasn't so much about you know, things that we already knew of, you know, the documentation of torture and the you know, like the very objective documentation of what went on there. It was very personal and very much from his point of view. And Mansoor is a prolific writer. I mean, he wrote, I mean, if you look, you know, behind him on his wall, he's got sticky notes for the next book. And he writes, and he kind of comes from this oral story telling tradition in Yemen, where he spins great yarns and you know, he has something to say about everything. But one thing that was pretty extraordinary about it is that he really wanted to capture moments from Guantanamo. He wrote a lot of moments. He wrote a lot about, you know, the daily life there, about his brothers, about the guards, about the interrogators, about, you know, about the animals, about you know, the vacuums, all these things. And what was amazing about it was that they were unmoored from time and oftentimes place, because they didn't have access to clocks or to watches. And so really, you know, for the first, I think, 2 years, Mansoor and I went through his manuscripts, his hundreds of pages of writing, and I asked him questions, and I tried to place everything in chronological order and tried to thread it all together. And I think Mansoor used to get so mad at me because I would ask him the same questions over and over again, and sometimes I felt like an interrogator.
You were an interrogator.
Asking questions that, like, you know, that he'd answered hundreds of times already, and we would scream at each other, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I need to know these things. But that was kind of the process. But you know, I don't think what some people realize is how much research went into threading it all together to make sure that Mansoor's story was told, but also told in a way that it could be corroborated by other documents. I mean, I think I read everything on or about Guantanamo, from books to reports to articles to raw data, and everything that went into the book can be backed up in some way. And I think that was really helpful when we went through legal review, because we could kind of make sure that there was something that was documenting every step, everything that we said in the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did an outstanding job. You know, Mansoor, it's impossible to discuss the book without spending a little time on torture. You describe so many types of torture of every conceivable description that was going on there. You even have the hair-raising description of being tortured, believe it or not, with a vacuum cleaner, the noise of the vacuum cleaner. You say at one point, even to this day, you can't bear the sound of a fan because it reminds you of that. But you said that the worst was solitary confinement. You write, I could never have imagined the cruel isolation of solitary confinement. You describe being shut up in what you call a green metal box. You know, I think that for the average reader, the average American has no idea just of the variety of torture. Could you just give some idea of how many different forms of torture you were subjected to? In the book, it just seems limitless at moments. You wonder what madmen, you know, could have thought this up.
Thank you, Ron. To be honest with you, I was like me and Antonio, like intentionally, we try not to put those bleak moments or stories in the book, because it will be hard to read. Like, yeah, we try to balance the emotion. At the same time, even before we end up at Guantanamo, like myself, I was in the black side, which like whatsoever, no limitation to whatever they could do to us. At Guantanamo, at the very beginning, it was harsh interrogation, beating. It was a mess. There was no any kind of defined rule. The guards didn't know how to deal with us. Just a big mess. They was like try to keep us disoriented, so that kind of like you go into the interrogation, they have control. when General Jeffrey Miller arrived in 2000, by the end of 2002, he started writing the SOP, Standard Operation Procedure. Then he also started developing enhanced interrogation technique. We call it enhanced torture technique.
Yeah.
Was also like psychologists. There was also Arabic advisors, people from background, and there was also interpreters. So they started experimenting on us, like, you know, solitary confinement was the worst because at that place, everything, they can control everything, especially the air, the light, you know, the talking, what can you hear, what can you talk, what can you smell. So the sound around us, like there is a big fan, like helicopters, vacuums, also at the same time, even the sun, the shower, the food, the water, everything. And it's not like that happened every single shift, every single day. And they have like 3 shifts. Each shift controls 8 hours, and they have the machine would change. So like, as for me, like one of the brothers, he's a psychologist. When he looked at me, someone said, "You are an hyperactive person." I said, "I don't know what mean hyperactive, but yes." He said, "Like, do you live in the mountain?" I said, "Like, how do you know?" He said, "Like, I could see jump on the bed, jump under the bed, on the sink, like on the door." Like, he said, "I know this guy from the mountain." Like, it was tough on me. So at that time, when they started like practicing those torture technique, especially the vacuum, the sounds, and so on, I mean, we couldn't sleep, we couldn't think, we couldn't even like try to concentrate any one thought. Just our mind just jump from thought to another thought to another thought, and it keeps months and years. So it's just, this is one of the forms. So also, like, you cannot see any faces. We know what the time is, and like you cannot talk to anyone. And no, those things we take for granted. They try to separate you from who you are and from the life that you know. You become like a shell.
Yeah, because I mean, it's almost like biblical plagues. First, it was all darkness, then it was all light, then it was all noise, then it was all, you know, silence. It was all heat, and then it was all cold, and it just kind of goes on and on. I'm amazed that you survived it. And I don't know if you're familiar, that there's a Hollywood director, Alfred Hitchcock, always did movies about an innocent man who was wrongly accused of a crime, and the difficulty, the more he tried to deny that he was the guilty party, the more everyone thought that he was guilty. And I kept thinking of that as I was reading your story. Can you tell the story that you were, this was a case of mistaken identity, that your interrogators thought that you were an Egyptian man, an older man, a member of Al-Qaeda, even though you didn't at all match up with the profile of this man. You say that the more you tried to deny that you were this man, the more convinced they were that you were this man. That alone would have driven someone crazy.
People familiar with the, you know, like the kind of Hollywood stories. And like we have like the smartest interrogator, the CIA, which actually after 9/11, it was really messy situation where they end up like in Afghanistan, they just collecting everyone, and what the seller told them, that's who you are. And they have some names, they have some characters, they have some signs for some people, and they were like familiar names. I was sold as Al-Qaeda commander because at Afghanistan I tried to blend in, like white turbine. People there, there was like no telephone. People communicate through radios. In our cars, we have a radio in the church. For the car belonged to the church organization. When they found a guy with the white turbine with the radio in the car, he's a commander. So they took it from there. I was sold, and also, if the Afghanis or Pakistanis or other countries tell this guy is like high rank, the more they get the money. So why not? Like we used to make joke about it at Guantanamo, like, how much do you worth? Like 5,000, 50,000, 200,000. Yes. So,
do you know how much they paid for you?
I think it could be around maybe 100,000, like this. Wow. So because like as I told them, the more you told them this guy is like high rank, I found one of the funny stories. 3 of the brothers I found there, they all were wanted by $5 million. 3 of them.
Yeah.
So when they come to interrogate them, they found they were nothing. They were just by Yemeni government. The Yemeni government told them at the CIA those people are connected to U.S. school bombing. So they were wanted. They fled to, some of them fled to Pakistan, to Saudi Arabia. They were brought to Guantanamo, which the CIA put on each one like $5 million. One of them, two of them used to tell us, I wish I just let my family to hand me over. I'd get like $5 million. At least when I leave here, I have enough money to get married and buy a home and so on. So we tended to be like a sense of humor, but it was painful and somehow.
Yeah.
So we were talking about at the beginning about, so remind me, we're talking about the, I lost. I was,
the case of
yeah,
mistaken identity.
So the case of mistaken identity, like when we brought to Guantanamo, when the CIA and the black side figured out that I wasn't the person I was, that what they just shipped me to Guantanamo, because just get rid of him. Because but when I spent like 2 months and having the black side, an old man came, he looked at the file, and he just looked at me and so I was like shipped to Kandahar and to Guantanamo. But my file was shipped with me at Guantanamo. The same thing, they started interrogating from the beginning. Like they told me, I was like, you are a 9/11 insider, Al-Qaeda commander, you were training, you were recruiting, you traveled to England, to Africa, to I don't know, somewhere else. So, and every time the interrogator shifted, they brought every 6 months to 1 year new interrogators, and they start with us from the very beginning. And no interrogator will dare to say, no, he's an innocent, because nobody wanted to encounter the government. Nobody wanted to show that there is sympathy. Sympathy at Guantanamo is a crime. Like, for example, what happened to a Muslim chaplain, Jim C. Jim C. is an army captain, was graduate, came to Guantanamo to serve to ease culture between detainees and guards, and to educate guards about Islam and Muslims and so on. So when he started protest against the torture that General Jeffrey Miller started develop at Guantanamo, General Jeffrey Miller knew that Jim C is going to be a problem. So they tried to get rid of him. They accused him of sympathize with detainees, of espionage, of sympathize with terrorists. He was arrested, he was interrogated, he was like treated like a terrorist. We are talking about an American captain who served in the military, who signed to serve his own country. Like, what about like us as detainees? So, like, as I told you, nobody wants to say, yes, he's innocent or he is not guilty. And also they tried at that time, especially at the beginning, they tried to make us fit the profiles. It doesn't matter, like just who you are. That's what they thought about us. And those interrogators, when they came, they have no information, no profile, no photos, no names, nothing. Like, so many delegations came from many countries to interrogate us, like at Guantanamo. We would meet by British intelligence, by French, by Germans, by Chinese delegation, by Yemeni, Saudis. They all came to help Americans to identify who are the people they were there. But from the very beginning, they knew the people who were there, they are not the one they were talking about, the worst of the worst. So I remember one of the generals, when we were on hunger strike, he came to taunt us. He told us literally 90% of you shouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah. You know, I kept thinking, Mansoor, as I was reading your book, not only were the interrogators brutal, but they were incompetent. You know, if you want Muslim prisoners to cooperate with you, the last thing you should do is to desecrate the Quran, which they did regularly, and that would infuriate, you know, all of the prisoners. So if the intention at Guantanamo was to extract usable intelligence and information from the prisoners, I didn't have a sense at any point in your book that they were getting anything useful out of any of the prisoners, because they had so antagonized people. And you talked about that there were cases where some of the people were just tortured so much that just to be rid of the torture, they would start giving names of imaginary terrorists. So I didn't even feel that on its own terms, in terms of getting useful intelligence, that Guantanamo was working for the Americans.
You know, Ron, you cannot give what you don't have, literally. Yeah. So I remember one of the detainees, he was a drug addict. So he needed the drug, he left Saudi Arabia to Afghanistan because he tried to stay away from the drug, tried to some kind like tried to rehabilitate himself.
Yeah.
When he ended up in Guantanamo, he told the interrogator, I will help you, but I need your help. Okay. So he started feed them with the lie. Some interrogators, they knew he was lying, but they needed that lie to at least to say we have some people. He witnessed again 300 detainees. Most of them were tortured brutally. So what I did, I went to the interrogation for me, like for 3 days, I was fed them with kind of lies. I think I mentioned that story. Mm-hmm. They were so excited. You are brave. You are smart. You are here. We are going to help you. We are going wherever. I just feed them with the lies. So I used to come back to what my brothers. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to say. And my brothers, we like build the stories and connect it together. Like all day long when they come to the interrogations, but 3 hours for interrogation, like they were so excited. Come to congratulate me. So the third day, I told them I have one important details, the most important. Like they were like, okay, like everyone was like, go ahead. I told them everything I told you is a lie. No, you are kidding. I said, yeah, it's a lie. I was like, it's a lie. You know. They were like, it was like someone hit them not with like spaceship, not a truck.
Yeah. And you're always kind of back to the beginning and going over the same story again and again.
Yeah,
never
like
a
of
sense
like,
of any progress.
I had a team of brothers and we used to build a story like, brothers like, they are crazy, I just go for it. I was beaten, I was like, then they came asking me why. The head of the interrogation, I said, look, you have been torturing brothers based on lies. I want to send you a message. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
So I was like, from now on, you will be in the blacklist. I said, what the blacklist? I am already the worst of the worst. Yeah. So based on my behavior, the way they classify me at Guantanamo, the worst of the worst, based on my behavior, not because I was the smartest, the strongest, or the oldest, or the most educated. No. Most of the brothers there, they were educated, knowledgeable, and more qualified to lead to a direct, but all of them were afraid how the Americans will classify them. Even some brothers, they refused to lead the prayers. Why? He said, I don't want to show them that I am an imam because they will classify me as a reader. So as a young, stubborn, crazy, tribal man, I don't care. I will do it. Just whatever you want to do into. I was in the scene, and some people behind the curtain who run things, but I was just for the American like head to head. So they said, "Oh, he's an instigator. He's a way of leading people." That proved to them that I was a leader. So, welcome to Guantanamo.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, a couple of more questions, but folks, then I'm going to be taking questions from the audience. So I see about 5 people have already posted in the Q&A, so please feel free to do that. And I'm going to be turning there in about 5 or 10 minutes. Antonio, can you talk about some of the legal complications in writing this book? I know that you and Mansoor were wanted to provide as detailed, a report on conditions at Guantanamo as possible. On the other hand, you did not want to specify the names, of other prisoners there, lest you put them or their families in danger. Can you talk about what that process was like?
Yeah, I mean, it started off, we knew all along that we wanted to protect certain prisoners' identities because sometimes they might still be there, or they might be fearful of what their families would be, how they would be treated if we use their real names. And so we paid a lot of attention to that. There were a couple of instances where, we had to change names, but also we had to take stories out simply because they were great stories and they were very revealing. But the families of those men, even if they had died, would have suffered, tremendously from having any story come out about them. And so it was a balancing act between those things. But I think that, one of the issues that was very difficult for both of us was writing about the commanders and generals. And I think there was a lot of, desire on our part to kind of really name names and to kind of put people in the room with Mansoor and with other prisoners. And what we found is that, well, you can't do that. There's liability both to Hachette and to Mansoor. People, will certainly sue him. And so we went through, after the final draft was put in to Hachette, we went through and we had to kind of corroborate as many incidents as possible where people were given dialogue or where there was something that could be, considered to be libelous about an individual. And then we kept in as much as we possibly could. And if it came down to a point where, even though we could find corroboration for, there were certain incidents where there was violence or where there were orders given, where we could corroborate those stories through other prisoners or through other, I guess they would call it hearsay, we still had to cut it from the book because it would open it up for liability. And I think, in our conversation, we decided that it probably made the story stronger because it didn't make it about individual culpability. Yeah. It made it about policy. And I think that was, but so.
No, I think you made the right decision because the book comes across as it should, as an indictment of a system, which is sort of more important, than the indictment of the particular people who were the tools, the instruments of that system. So I think actually the book, was in every respect stronger.
I think, but one thing I just want to finish on that is, I think what we really want people to understand is that this is a memoir about surviving, torture and trauma. It's a trauma memoir. I mean, it's really, Mansoor went through, a certain sense of catharsis writing the book, and it was really important for him, for his story to be told. And I think, what I hope people do when they read this is they don't think of it as, like another torture diary. It's really, it's Mansoor's way of processing being held arbitrarily for 15 years, never charged with a crime, and also suffering tremendous amounts of psychological and physical torture. So
actually, I should emphasize, even though a lot of the book, is very frightening material, there's also something very affirmative and very uplifting, about the book. And Mansoor, the strange thing is one reads the book and reads about all the beatings and interrogations that you and your fellow prisoners suffered. Instead of being broken, you form this brotherhood of suffering. There's a very powerful sense of solidarity that emerges among the prisoner, that you're kind of really keeping each other alive. Can you talk about that process of how that solidarity developed? Because it was very difficult often just for you to communicate with the other people there.
Ron, when we brought to Guantanamo, like as individuals, we didn't have any shared life together that, it's like everything was new, the place, the people, the weather, everything. Like you end up like in a cage or in jumpsuit, shaved. And what make a person, makes a person as a person? Every individual of us is our names, our memories, knowledge, our emotion, our relationship, our values, ethics, faith, language. This is what makes a person as a person. Also our memories, that's what makes a person as a person. At Guantanamo, the systematic abuses and torture was designed to strip us of who we are. So it's just like a natural that we try to resist, try to survive. We were just reacting to whatever they threw at us. So when they started, like some of us, like it doesn't make any sense what they were doing. Like for us, like, no, this is so wrong. I mean, why we're doing this? Like for me, I was like asking, wow, for what? So from that point, we knew at that place we have only each other. So we start sharing those our memories, our knowledge, our names, our stories, our background, our cultures, and so on. That hardship, torture, forged some kind of brotherhood and friendship, and we start supporting each other, and because we had to leave each other. So that helped us to survive that place. and try to also, one of the biggest reason there, the biggest means that help us to survive, that we have each other. We started teaching each other classes in the cages, because we were totally disconnected from the world. We had no pens, no books. We were not allowed to talk. We were not allowed. So as where I come from, I was like painful to see those young people or the old people who was my neighbors to suffer. So I must do something. Like I'm strong, and that shouldn't be happen. So we start, some of us, you know, thought that okay, we're going to fight as much as we could. That would like come like brother called that the red eyes, because we always fight back. We always were talking about the camp administration. We always in sort of mind breaking the rules, encouraging people, instigating hunger strike, and so on. So that led some kind of encouraging other people, and it was a mean of survival at the place.
Yeah, it's a strangely inspirational book, given how dark the material is. I'm looking at the questions now. There's so many wonderful questions. I hope I can get through some of them. Sarah Falter asks, Mansoor or Antonio, if you got the chance to talk to President Biden about closing Guantanamo, what would you say to him?
I would say, first of all, I think it has long passed to close Guantanamo. Bush wanted to close it. Obama wanted to close it. I don't count Trump as a president, because it doesn't matter who's Trump, but also President Biden wanted to close it. And I think closing Guantanamo is in the best interest of American. It is morally right and in the best interest of American safety and security. And as you know, I mean, what Guantanamo stands for now? Does it like make Americans safe or safer? No. You know, Guantanamo now stands for injustice, torture, abuse of power, indefinite detention. Stands for you know, death sentence for those who still there. It became one of the biggest human rights violation in the 21st century, and it is not just about the detainees. It's about us as humans. Nobody should be held indefinitely. Nobody should take in his freedom and throw in a way and disconnect from the world based on like no accusation, no right, nothing. And I would call to President Biden to close that place, because I don't think American can declare that the war ended up in Afghanistan until they close Guantanamo.
Yeah,
Antonio.
I think I would ask him to close it just to finally acknowledge and reckon with the mistake of Guantanamo. I think, you know, it's been 20 years since the war on terror began. We'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the opening of Guantanamo, the least worst place. I think military leadership up and down the board have declared Guantanamo a failure. The military commissions are a failure. The cost to American taxpayers is outrageous. The moral loss to our values is incomprehensible, and it's certainly not, you know, a national security deterrent. It's probably causing more problems than it's making. So why not acknowledge that this has been that it's a problem and accept culpability for it and close it?
Mm-hmm. There's an interesting question here from Roy Idelson about the psychologists at Guantanamo. I'll read you what he wrote. Said, I'm a member of the Coalition for an Ethical Psychology, and for years we've worked to expose the ugly involvement of psychologists in the abuse and torture of prisoners at Guantanamo. In your book, you refer several times to the horrors of the behavioral health unit there. Can you say more about your experience with psychologists and other health professionals while you were imprisoned? Thank you for your extraordinary book. Maybe Mansoor, you wanted to?
Yeah, you know, at the beginning, the psychologist drove us crazy. At the end, I was driving crazy after 2010. So at the beginning, you know, when we behave like they told us you are our behavior, everything was controlled by interrogators. Everything was under the control of interrogators. Psychologists also served to serve interrogation. Everyone was served to help interrogation to extract this information inside that head that would save like our galaxy and our whatever. Is just crazy. Anyway, at the beginning, when I was accused that I am a violence guy, they used to take me to give us a shot tie us in those beds naked. They then would like give us shot, tie us for 24 hours or sometimes 48 hours. Then what they put us like in some kind cold, also naked in solitary confinement. Like really, they have like their own unit, Delta Block in Camp 1. After that, when we went in hunger strike in 2004 and 5, they built what they call BHU, Behavior Health Unit. Also, it was served as solitary confinement, cameras, guards, and punishments, and sometimes they would force us to take medicine and shots and so on. It was like a part of experiment. And if you need to get out from the BHU, you have to talk to your interrogator. The only way to talk to the interrogator. I remember when in Delta Block, the psychologist, when I was talking to the iguana, I was taken to the Delta, and she used to come and sit at my head while I started. She said, "Okay, if you want to get out from here, call your interrogator and cooperate, and we'll get you out from here." Punishment, they were all involved in punishing us when we start like splashing the guard or fighting with them, especially when they secret the Quran and so on, and they say like, your guys mad or crazy. They would give like some kind of medicine to calm us down. It was a mean of torture. However, after I would become like in 2010, I used to meet with psychologists just because when I started like negotiate with the administration with brothers, we have to talk to everyone, try to create a better place. We tried to keep the balance between the brothers and the administration because they told us we are afraid that you might do something. I said, look, we have been here for the last 10 years. Nothing happened. Nothing will happen. So I missed with the psychology. They used to accuse us, you are causing problems. I said, one of my conversation with the psychologist, I used to tell them, look, you study 6 years, 7 years, whatever in psychology, but you study in psychology, in psychology of science to treat the people who live under normal circumstances and they get fucked up. You know, you try to help them to get back to their normal life, but us here, what you're doing is wrong. You shouldn't be here in the first place. We live under abnormal circumstances, that the outcome should be abnormal behavior, abnormal situation. That's not the normal. If someone behaves normal under abnormal circumstances, he is normal. And I told the psychologist, you are abnormal because you are functioning under abnormal circumstances, which is wrong. I'm like, who taught you this? He said, Al-Qaeda. I said, yeah, I'm a commander. So, and they said, yeah, you know, by the end, anyway, they warned the guards and camp staff, don't talk to 441. He has a way of convincing people. I said, I don't have any way, but I'm just talking about the fact and the reality. You are throw us in the fire and told me not to get burned. So by the end, you know, as I told you, some of those camp staff and guards were also victims of the Guantanamo machinery because they have to follow orders. Man, I follow orders. Psychologists, doctors, our hands are tied. So they also receive orders to serve the purpose of Guantanamo because nobody can defy the rules because Guantanamo is outside of the law. There was no legal basis for that place. Everything is wrong. You cannot just bring the law or in a place where it doesn't apply there. And nobody will hold accountable no matter what they do. It's just a messy place. And this is one. I think psychologists, some of them were nice. I remember we had a woman called Geneva, psychologist. She helped Adnan a lot. We appreciate her. She tried to make things better, but she didn't last long. After 3 or 4 months, they just relieve her and bring someone else. You know, if they saw someone who tried to improve things or someone with some ties with detainees, they immediately remove them.
Well, anyone who's read the book, I think, would recognize that the term behavioral health unit could only have been devised by George Orwell in this context. Here's a question, Mansoor, that I know you answer in the book, but it's an interesting one from Victoria Holmes. On 9/11, when you were in Afghanistan, did you hear the news? Did you know something had happened in the US? Was it days or months after 9/11 that you were sold for bounty? I think are you muted there?
Yeah. Let us talk about Afghanistan, but people don't understand how the situation look at Afghanistan, how the country, you know, the environment, the country is 1,000 years behind the world at that time. I don't know how is it now. How is it now? So when I arrived in Afghanistan, literally I felt I'm 1,000 year behind the world. The only thing that make you feel that you live in the present, the cars. Other than this, everything is like homes, people wearing, people behavior, not in a bad way, but that's what it is. All you see the scrap of the machine of wars, damaged building, the suffer and the poverty that people faces. So when none of it happened, if you ask me, have you ever seen really skyscraper and you have like 110? I had no idea even that exists at that time.
Yeah.
So in Yemen, our skyscraper is like 25 buildings, the tallest building in the world,
Yeah.
So at Guantanamo, we were in the restaurant and we heard the news in Arabic channel that like there is airplane flying to buildings. And we didn't pay much attention to it because I wasn't following the news. There was no TVs, no newspaper. And the people, it is like, you can say, the only people have contact to outside world through the radio. They can listen to the news.
Yeah.
That's it. So for me, I wasn't even interested in politics. I barely differentiate between the United Nations and the United States. I always thought that the same thing, United Nation, United State, like, okay, they're the same. So yeah, I mean, I was so young. So we moved on with our life. I mean, you didn't feel there is like the news, huge everything. I never saw it on TV until 2010 when I was moved to the communal living. This was the first time I watched that. So this is how the situation, not because, like I'm saying that not because I wasn't interested in the news, because it just like, as a kid, I have like something different in my life. And the environment itself is just really different.
A couple of people, Lenore Beakey and Josie Seltzer, are both curious about your life now. You told a story in the book that when you were released from Guantanamo, you really didn't have any say in which country you ended up when you talk about the fact that a delegation came from Serbia. You were not particularly thrilled about going to Serbia. So, one of the questions here is, what is your life like now? Do you have freedom of movement, freedom to work? Can you travel abroad? And if I can add a question of my own, have you been able to see your family? Have they been able to visit you?
Oh, this stuff, family stuff. I think Antonio knows a lot about my life because he's part of my life. Now we are like brothers. It has been so tough. I went on hunger strike twice when I arrived. The first time, 48 days, because I behaved like Guantanamo mentality. The first time I went on hunger strike for 25 days, I was arrested, interrogated for talking to the media. When I arrived here, they told me, we have nothing for you. We have only 2 years. You live under restrictions. If you try to cause any problem, we're going to kick your ass and put you in jail.
Yeah.
So, that's not gonna happen with me.
Yeah.
I was denied for college education, for many things. So I have a lovely lawyer. I call her Aunt Beth Jacob. She flew immediately from the United States to Serbia, tried to make things right. When she came, he's lying. There is no promise. He said, no, we were promised that and that, like resettlement. It has been tough. It has been so tough. I haven't met my family. We just only a few months we talked through the Skype, through the ICRC. Because the civil war in Yemen is really hard with the communication. I'm not allowed to, I'm not able to travel. I found a woman that I really wanted to marry. It's one of the worst experience in my life. I was attached to that woman, and it was just a matter. I need a travel document to go and meet the family, but that was taken from me. I was expelled from faculty when they knew I came from Guantanamo. There's a lot of difficulties. I'm not allowed to leave the city because I need to tell them 3 days ahead where, why, when, who I'm going to meet. Anyone I get in contact with either get arrested, called by the police, or interrogated. Even yesterday, a guy from the Washington Post, photographer, he was here. Then we all followed all the way, like, there is people follow and take photos. I said, yes, welcome to my life. people will read more about life after Guantanamo in that book here. It's like, guys, it's a very interesting book. It's not just my story. Also, despite all the difficulties and the challenges, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given me really lovely people in my life. Antonio, Antbat Jacob, Aaron Thompson, Sarah Geese, Ramsey. There are a lot, most of them from the United States. And I have a lovely friend also, Alisa, she like recently. And those people, I'm blessed to have those people in my life because they directed me, they helped me, and alhamdulillah, with their help, I finished my college education. I finished my degree in management, and my thesis, I just finalized it today, is about, guess about what? About rehabilitation and reintegration of former Guantanamo detainees into social life and the labor market. I wanted to do my thesis about closing Guantanamo, but the faculty told me, no, this is so politics. We don't want to get there. I published the book, alhamdulillah. We work on the TV show.
Yeah.
I wrote another book, Art from Guantanamo, but we haven't found a publisher yet. I work in life after Guantanamo. I have achieved, alhamdulillah, I am also in contact with my brothers. We have 3 WhatsApp group. I help translate, fix their problems, consultation, solidarity. And just recently, I joined Cage with their campaign, international witness campaign on war, dismantle war and terror. And this is my life so far. I'm planning, like, I'm trying to live here to where I can start my life, build my life, and found a lovely, beautiful family, and get like 2 lovely girls. I need to get married, guys.
Yeah.
Really, like, I need to be a father and meet my family.
Oh, I hope that happens. I mean, for me, one of the most heartbreaking things about the book is that you described during your first 6 or 7 years at Guantanamo, you didn't know if your family was alive. You didn't know if they knew whether you were alive or if they had any idea where you were. And then you tell the story that one of the released prisoners contacts your mother and then you hear from her. But that must have been absolutely excruciating to go through this. Here's a nice question from Dan Norland. He writes, "Thank you, Mansoor, for your courage, grace, and brilliant storytelling. Your book is staggeringly powerful. I went back and forth between bursting out laughing and bursting into tears." Actually, good description of the experience of reading the book. He says, "I'm curious, what's the #1 thing that you hope people will take away from reading your book? How do you hope your book will change the people who read it?" I think you're muted again.
Yeah. Thank you, Donald. Donald actually is a nice guy. I wrote the book, first of all, like, when I wrote that book, I told Antonio, when I started writing that book at Guantanamo, I wanted a different book that take people to side that secretive place, to show our life, how Guantanamo grow, evolve, how we grow up, I wrote a story about the humanity that was at Guantanamo, the shared humanity we have together with, like, detainees or guards, whatsoever. I wrote about everything: detainees, guard, campus staff, animals, about the sea, about everything. First of all, I hope that book will help to close Guantanamo. And I thought it could capture a moment of beauty, of joy in that place, about our brotherhood, friendship, about our struggle to survive, that I could change the way people thought about Guantanamo. And that we are human. People who like just human like anyone else. People, father, mother, they were like fathers, sons, husbands. People have dreams, ambition. People who, doctors, nurses, scholars, singers, all kind of people. So I hope Guantanamo, I hope no one will face the same fate we have been through, because I don't want to have anyone to live that pain that we suffer for years and years and years.
Let me maybe Antonio, well, maybe we could kind of wrap up. I'll have both of you respond to this very interesting question from Natalia. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Natalia Rivera Scott. do you think there will be accountability for those responsible for torturing you and all the others? Or is this just going to be kind of swept under the rug and forgotten? You know, I was saying to Mansoor before we started the program that as I was reading his book, it kept reminding me about 50 years ago when Alexander Solzhenitsyn published the Gulag Archipelago. He had been a prisoner in the Soviet, vast Soviet prison system. And when he got out, this was such a kind of secret system. The history of it had been suppressed, that he really felt that it was his duty as a writer and as a human being to become the historian of all of that suffering, because he was the only person who really, you know, on the outside, who knew about it and who can record it. And I said to Mansoor that I feel that he has performed a similar kind of public service in publishing this book. I think this is really one of the most important books published this year. So will there be, as people read this book, will there be a sense of accountability, or will there just be a sense of wanting to close the door on this sad chapter? Maybe I could have both of you respond to that, and we can end on that note. Antonio, you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, why don't I go and then Mansoor can end it. I don't know. I think once I had these naive, you know, aspirations or notions that there would be some sort of accountability for Guantanamo, but I think the politics of fear will always be a benefit for the political system, and I don't think the United States, even after 20 years, is ready to reconcile with what actually happened at Guantanamo. I think there are still too many people who want to send people to Guantanamo. And even as recently, you know, as this year in one of the reviews, somebody had mentioned, you know, they were wondering what the line was between enhanced interrogation and torture. So as long as we're still asking that question about what happened at Guantanamo and whether or not, you know, the men who were there should have been tortured, then I don't think we're going to have accountability. I think we actually have to make a couple more steps forward in how we think about what happened at Guantanamo before we actually have anyone accountable. And I think the people who die, who were responsible for it, probably have to die before we have accountability for it. Rumsfeld is gone, but watching Alberto Gonzalez trying to wax poetic about Guantanamo with the 9/11 anniversary is horrendous. So I don't think we're there.
Yeah. Mansoor?
I wish my lawyer, Beth Jacob, was here to answer that question, but I have nothing to add. I don't know what to say about the accountability, because from what I have seen, I hope so, but from the legislation that no detainee, none of us were allowed, we will be able to sue the US government or seek any compensation. So I don't know. But before we finish the conversation, I would like to sing you guys the same song we used to sing for this show when we say like goodbye. By the end. So so we start with the sing and end up with the sing, like at Guantanamo when someone came, someone leave. It's just like to live to have like some moment of the book, please.
And just so you know, I actually was on the phone with Mansoor one day when a couple of his friends and former prisoners were on, and I heard them sing it together, and it was amazing. It was gorgeous, and I can't imagine an entire block of 48 men singing this song as men go off to interrogation or come back.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, you know, I this is the first time that I've actually gotten to meet Mansoor face to face, and Mansoor, what has struck me during the past hour is, for someone who suffered as much as you have, there's so much joy in your face and in your voice and your kind of, you know, ready laughter and smile. When people read the book, I think they will be astonished, you know, that you have been able to, you know, maintain really such an upbeat outlook on life. I just think it's a great accomplishment. And as a historian, I think this book is so important as a primary document, you know, that you were an eyewitness of everything that happened there, and that no historian will be able to write about Guantanamo and not read your book, and that's awfully important. 50 years from now, 100 years ago. I agree with you, Antonio. I don't know that the American public is ready right now to deal with it, because I think there's kind of a desire to, forget the excesses of the war on terror. But I think that you have left to, Mansoor and Antonio, a document here that is always going to influence the debate on Guantanamo. So you want to sing us goodbye, Mansoor?
Yes, I would like to sing
Okay.
thing. First of all, I would like to thank all the people who like, it was a team work on the book, like started with my lawyer Andy Hart, my lovely lawyer Beth Jacob, Antonio Thompson, and there's a lot of people I would like to thank. It was a teamwork for Hachette, Sam, Sarah, and a lot of people. And the song I'm going to sing you guys, it is the same song when someone was taken for the interrogation, or leave Guantanamo, or leave the block. It means روح مع السلامة, go with peace. May Allah grant you more peace and safety. I'm going to sing it, then you can end up like روح مع السلامة, الله يزيدك أمن وسلامة. روح مع السلامة, Allah يزيدك أمن وسلامة. May Allah grant you all more safety and peace. And thank you so much for attending the event. I love you all.
Well, thanks to you guys for creating the book. Thanks to everyone out there in virtual reality. Please buy the book. Please read it. Please tell your friends about it, and kind of let's keep this book alive and in the political conversation. And I know, we're just a couple of days away from the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and so I can't think of a better time to be discussing this. So congratulations to you guys, and folks, thanks for tuning in. Okay, take care.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you.